Welcome back to Gearwire.com. I'm Owen O'Malley, and we're taking a look at the David Eden WXT-260, part of the World Tour series of bass heads. The WXT-260 is a 260 watt head. It is all solid state. It is one of the warmest sounding solid state bass heads that I've heard since my beloved Gibson GB440 was stolen the first gig I ever played in Chicago. Anyway, the David Eden is a very small, as you can see, head, very lightweight too, incredibly lightweight, and it does get very loud. On the front panel here, we've got the sort of World Tour standard enhance switch right here, and a 3-band EQ. And there's a lot of different tone functions when you push and pull these pots. There is a very smooth compressor on board, as you can hear. Not too intense, but you can sort of engage the way you, or rather change the way you engage it by adjusting the preamp. There's no actual compressor controls on the front end other than a bypass, which the bypass is engaged by pulling the enhance knob. See, now it gets really loud because there's no compressor. Let's go through all the controls on the front panel here. All the way on the left, we've got our preamp gain. Now again, this is it's a solid state preamp, but they used a very high grade transistor they've called the golden ear chip. I don't know if that's a David Eden trademark or if that's just a separate company, but it is a very high grade transistor, and like I said, it's very warm sound for a solid state head. If we pull on this preamp gain right here, we now engage this 12 decibel pad. Pop it back in. There's a very handy mute switch right here, which is kind of nice. Okay, here's our enhance knob. The enhance is sort of like a standard on all David Eden World Tour Series bass heads. As we pull it more clockwise, it's sort of a throatier sound. Sort of a more scooped mid sound all the way clockwise here. Did I say counterclockwise before? This is clockwise now. And we have our compressor bypass if we pull it. Moving on to the 3-band EQ section, we've got our bass EQ. Now, if we pull the bass EQ knob, it actually engages this kind of this cool adaptive bass boost, which is actually, it's not just this sort of like a standard like decibel boost at any kind of frequency. It's actually, you know, as you turn the volume down, the master volume down on the front of the head, it boosts the bass in relation to the volume, the master volume, to compensate for low volume bass dropout. So, you know, as you turn it down, it'll just kind of boost your bass adaptively. So even at very low volumes, you can get a real rumbly tone out of this guy. Now we've got our mid shift. When the pot is in, the frequency that it's sweeping is at 550 hertz, which is a real sort of typical like funky fingerstyle kind of frequency. And if we pull it out, it shifts to 2200 hertz. You can hear a lot more string noise, and if you're playing with a pick, you get a lot more of an aggressive sound out of this guy. Let's put that back in. Nice little shift right there. Now we've got our treble boost, our highs. Really, really fizzy on this bass, or on this head. Now, if we pull this, we can actually it says pull for post send. It's pre-post DI send. So if you have it in, your DI signal from the back of this head, and we'll look at all the back connections in a second, the DI send is coming before any equalization. If you pull this, you're sending an equalized signal to the house through the DI. Just kind of a nice little thing. Nice little option. And then we've got our master volume right here. Along the front here still, we have an auxiliary, stereo auxiliary input, a line level auxiliary input, a tuner out, and a mono effects loop with the send and return all on the front face of this amp. Which is funny because this amp is sort of easier to turn around and access the rear than most sort of larger bass amps, but kind of nice having those in the front. Adds a little bit of convenience. Let's look at the back of this guy. Along the back now, you see we've got a foot switch in. You've got to get a proprietary David Eden dual design foot switch. Actually, probably any dual function foot switch would work with this thing. But it's basically you can engage the mute or bypass the enhance switch on the fly. You can't actually bypass the enhance without the foot switch. We've got our balanced XLR out, our XLR send signal, and a ground lift for the XLR send. We've got a stereo headphones out right here. Makes for a good little compact practice amp. And these are our speaker outputs. There's two balanced 1/4 inch outs and then a speak-on output. And this can handle up to a 4 ohm load. It's 260 watts at 4 ohms and about 120 at 8 ohms. Don't take it lower than a 4 ohm load because then you'll blow it up. Over on the side here, we have our super quiet cooling fan. This thing does not get very hot, but it does get pretty loud. It gets loud enough, I'd say, for tracking and I'd say playing with a not very loud drummer. I happen to play with a very loud drummer, and this amp was sort of struggling to compete, but can't really fault it for its sound. It does sound pretty great. So that was the David Eden World Tour WX-260 bass head. Pretty powerful head for its compact size, pretty warm sounding for a solid state head. You've been watching Gearwire.com. I'm Owen O'Malley. See you soon.